All right, let's get the old trusty steed out here. Get that puff going, boy. Oh, there it is. So we're gonna start the roof today. I have some preliminary sketches that I'm gonna get printed out. I just like to have reference with everything. It's just kind of a good tool to not just count on what you think you remember, but to have like a visual right in front of you to help you out. So I'm gonna get that stuff printed out right now and start our process. So I think I'm gonna need to use some more sheet metal here to get some boards for this stuff. So you can see this was our previous engagement. From our side enclosure panels, obviously I pulled the big layout here, so that like the A-pillar to bump stop zone, pulled it off this one, and then we used this guy, the detail there, and the detail here on this thing. So our next step here is kind of the bigger stuff where it's gonna really add a change of pace. This is my sketch I did. So obviously this is the car outside, but I did add this front treatment. I added a windshield treatment and a roof scoop treatment. So I got a couple prints of each because last time I wanted to have one like in my hand and one on a board. Let me see if my dry fingers can get through this stuff. So this is a side profile. Kind of see there. Up top I have the kind of what profile I'm going for. I do want to have a radius. I want to have it kind of be tighter in the rear portion and then straighten back out, possibly taper down a little bit. We have a fully flat chassis on the top, so we don't need to make a mega like radius, but something tasteful in the middle will be cool, and it'll complement the windshield. You can see the windshield frame here. So that's another thing. The windshield, the glass should be cut and ready today. And I didn't put any detail here for the hood. And then this is kind of, I have two of the same sketch, but this one just has the roof scoop on it. This is what I want to go for. So I think what we'll do is we'll have 1 piece, 2 piece, and 3 piece, 4 piece, 5 piece. Yeah, if I can, I think I can get away with breaking this one, so maybe we'll do 1, 2. So this flat horizontal piece will have just like a radius roll up, and then we'll cut the shape of the scoop. So we'll just have 1 broke up, or radius, bumped up, and then a cap. Weld, blend, sand. The windshield program, the frame here that you kind of see started, that I want that portion to, obviously it'll have a part line here on like that A pillar, that top chassis tube, but I want this to go into the scoop and capture, because I didn't just want to have the scoop like where you just see down into the car. So I think if you have this like break over into there, it can go and maybe run 8 to 10 inches back in there, or it'll not only like look like there's form in there and not be just like open guts to the interior, but it'll also lend to greater air, directional airflow towards the coolers. So I'm going to address these side portions first, then kind of do that bump break up, figure out, I think we're gonna have to do new button layouts on the chassis, because the top portion of the this area, the perimeters here and everything in between with the Zeus button plates, it's just set up for a flat panel. So once we figure out where this surface change is going to be, where it's going to start to go up, then we'll have to lay some Zeus buttons out to kind of hold the form and keep things sturdy in there. This middle portion, if anything, I'll put a standoff or maybe 2 vertical like posts going up, ping, ping, to have like a Zeus button in there and hold that, just so you're not getting, you know, sort of floppy dick in here, or, you know, any kind of vibration, rattling, just maybe sag in general, just over time. I don't know. It just makes sense to have some standoffs in the middle of this thing. So I'm gonna get this party started and you know, get some serious headway done today on this thing. All right, here we go. So I'm gonna get most of this stuff done today. You can see in this picture, it looks like it has a little bit of a crown to it. It is oftentimes better even if you build this thing straight, it'll still look like it sags a little bit. So I'm gonna bump this up, put a little bit of a crown, and it'll probably still appear flat, but at least it won't lead you to thinking that it's falling down in the middle. Just trying to figure out the actual spread of where the opening is going to be for the scoop. Try to get it similar to the sketching. So I'm going to do green tape as an indicator of the actual panel. 12-inch spread from the end. That gusset, that's a good indicator. I kind of trust the drawing, so you can see like that corner gusset is almost right where that starts going up. Now it's different on this side, so the foreshadowing here isn't accurate, but I do like that. So I'm going to go a little bit further out than that gusset. And that's going to give us what we want. We just got to trust the drawing, trust the process. Right off the bat here, so I have this 9 1/4 marked where I want my, you know, horizontal material to start breaking or rolling up for the sides or the diagonal of the scoop. And I can tell, you know, the placement of the Zeus buttons isn't optimal to how I'd want to do this anyway. So we need to get, like, you know, you have a really clean shot here. So there's ways to do this where you can have some tasteful locations for the Zeus buttons. And I'm gonna adjust some of these pertaining to that. You know, it just, even stuff like this, like just moving it to the corner is just a given, but also having it on the same plane as this one, so the distances are the same and the Zeus buttons clock the same, is just something you can do the first time around that gets you the extra credit. These guys, I might leave. This one definitely can go away. This one will go away. I'm gonna lay out. Let me see if I can get a better view. I'm gonna lay out a grid on here with a straight edge of where we want the profile like this, the horizontal plane of the, you know, the scoop to start going up. Once I get that, then I'm gonna want to establish exactly, you know, where these buttons need to be to fasten that thing properly. So right now I'm probably just gonna put a blanket down, mark everything that I need to cut off, and then go cutting. So I've got my taper figured out, which is kind of what I mean by that is like how it goes. It starts short here, and this hood, you know, the brake there tapers in towards the rear. So I've got that set here, figured out what works. Let's start getting our Zeus buttons located. I've already cleaned off the old Zeus buttons so we can reuse them. So I'm gonna lay out my grid here before I start laying our profile plates and our horizontal outside plates. Flat surface, like flat plane Zeus button fitting is relatively easy. You just gotta have a nice hard, like straight edge to kind of keep the integrity of what you're doing. I know the brake's gonna be there, so something safe. I'm confident in these locations, so I'm gonna go ahead and just get these guys solidified on here. I have all my measurements on here. Just from these cap tubes make it really easy to pull measurements accurately for the Zeus button location, so I'm just gonna go over there and weld all the plates on. Same thing as this side, just kind of repeat it. That's how a lot of the stuff with fabrication on motorsports vehicles goes. You usually do it twice or 4 times. 13 years of, I don't think it's rust the whole time, but there's definitely a bunch of surface rust on here, and I'm not going to clean the whole chassis right now, but I can definitely prep our hot spots. This is a part of the tedious process of this stuff, but once we get this going, it pays off. Taking the time to do proper, nice, like grid style Zeus button locations really pays dividends in the end with presentation and design. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 buttons. I want to put some ones in this middle area for the windshield panel. Go brop, bop, brop. You know, have it go over like that. So, see what we get. I'm gonna figure out a clean modular hit for the windshield. I don't think we're gonna get that. It's just gonna have to go flat out, but we need to have ones out here. Oh, we do, huh? Okay, so I'm gonna set that up right now then. Got a rough shape going right now with the template. I got the brake kind of where it needs to be. I think I'm just gonna keep it simple, do just a single brake like that, not like bump a radius into it. That feels right to me. I will radius the actual, the curve going over here. But this transition, the horizontal plane here, up to the diagonal part of the like scoop, I'm gonna keep just a brake, and then I'll smooth out that top one. Very similar to what we have on the drawing. Right now, the important part is figuring out this profile. I'm gonna start with a bigger profile. I'm gonna lay it out on there and just kind of do some rough sketching on there, and then I'm gonna put it on the table and get like a nice gradual sweep. Sweep, I just mean like our shape, like our dynamic radius or curve there. I'm gonna do a test hit, do one, put it up there. It might need adjustment. I either need to take more out of it or I need to make a whole new one. So this is an important part to the design process. And once we get this solidified, then we're full speed. This is what we're working with right now. Whoa. So obviously this thing's kind of kicked up. I don't have like a set in stone angle. I like that shape. I just think there might be a little too much rise here. I do want there to be a positive rise about a third down and then drag down, but I think it's just a little crowned. So I'm just gonna take a little bit off the top here. Having big chunks or fillers and stuff is inevitable. Let me do that. Having big chunks of metal, especially if they're somewhat nice geometric shapes and not just weird abstract shapes. This is super helpful for many things. Fortunately, I have a couple people that look out for me. Stuff like that, like and they hook me up with little presents every once in a while like this. All right, this is our profile. Kind of see that it kind of starts quickly here, and then draws flat, and I got it more arched, kind of like a B2. I have the spread pretty similar. So what we have right now is we have this panel done. I'm gonna make 2 of these per side. I don't have the panel done, I have the template done. So I'm gonna show you guys. That's her. I left a little leading edge here. I just think that'll be a nice accent. It doesn't have to go right to that tube, and we'll get more flow instead of just trying to force it to the bottom of the tube where all the air has to go through here and then down under, and it can kind of go under and out the back, and it'll just leave like a nice exit, and it'll make it so that this cooler is not the highest point. But I have this shape. I'm gonna go ahead and take the driver's side and flip it and make both pieces at once. Locate the the Zeus tab button locations in here. Get this thing on. I'm not gonna bead roll it yet, so what I mean is I'm not gonna put like a tank roll or a spoiler roll on any of that or the edges until I solidify the middle portion too. I am laying out our template here for driver's side scoop, horizontal area to diagonal wall, I guess. Sometimes if I know I'm gonna have a considerate like amount of break in a panel, I'll DA that area first just so it doesn't like show the DA marks. It gets it all consistent. But I'm just laying this out, and then I'm gonna go twice pipes and make this thing for the other side. Here's our shape before the break. I'm gonna go grab a big piece and make twinsies. All right, got the driver and passenger side on here. Kind of see our profile. Did one revision already where I cut it pretty tall. Took about almost an inch off. But I'm pretty happy with the shape we have right now. It's kind of hard to see. Okay, so these are final. I have our profiles. They're actually filed smooth right now. It's a little tricky to rub your hand on there because there is some kind of burr. Not like a big burr, but just stuff that'll get caught in your hand, so I want to be careful. But these are equally matched here. Same angle. They hit exact, even on the table you can kind of see. So those guys are our outside ones, and then I also have like this mohawk here. This mohawk is like a middle spine, so it's 3/16 higher than the outside, so it does have that crown like I talked about. And that's just gonna be a retaining mechanism for when I put the top skin on. And I think we'll leave this, but I'm not gonna start it until about 20 inches back. So that's why I don't have a front Zeus button, I just have this middle one. I'm gonna cut this thing probably right here at some kind of tasteful shape, and then have this middle panel where the windshield goes. I'll have that go about 20 inches in, and that's enough just to where it blocks the sun and the opening there, and it also directs the air, and then it stops, and then it can just go all back to the coolers. So what I want to do right now, is add my roll to this. So that means we have our roof line, and then we have our panel goes up here. And what we want, we have this break already done, but instead of just being, putting a panel on where it's going to be flat, I want to be able to roll it. I want to get that edge rolled nicely like that, so then when I put that other one on there, it's like a nice radius instead of just like a abrupt kind of angle. There's different kinds of rolls. This is called a spoiler roll. You can see there's not really an edge or return, and I've noticed with the tank rolls. You see here, the tank roll has got like almost a stop on it. It's a very tight radius. And that's good for some things. I don't use these. It's there, but even when I'm doing edges, like perimeter edges on stuff, I just roll to a certain place here where it's maybe like 3/8 or 5/16 deep, and it's just not all the way to the end, and that's just my preference. I'd rather have a greater diameter and you know, have a leading edge instead of some kind of a stopper or a guide or something on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put both pieces through this thing, run them through. That's going to set up that curvature on the you know, on the roof, where I can start putting that middle panel in and really get an accurate cut for that middle panel. And then I am going to cut the middle panel and start fitting it. Nice unit. So there you go. Pop these bad boys on. Here we are. Roof is close. Just got some material stashed up there for foot traffic reasons. I'm gonna pull that down and we'll take a look at what I got. And I think we just need to make sure I keep looking. Let me pull that stuff down first. So what I'm noticing right off the bat, and I put the digi up there, but this angle, I look at it and something, it's close, but I leveled out the car with the digi, and then I put it on each face of the diagonal or the upright, the wall of the roof scoop. And it's telling me the exact numbers per side, but it just, sometimes visually, it just throws you off. And I think sometimes when you have stuff that has like a progressive shape like that, where it, this thing tapers pretty hardcore, and it's got that angle broke into it, and it has a bead roll, rolling off the top. So I think we just trust the process. Came up short on my template. Schling, I want this little part, I really want this detail to roll off the back of the car like that. You'll see there. Then the other thing, I'm gonna get up a little higher. I think the other thing we wanna do is get a really good layout here. So something, I think we wanna put a deep step in it, just like the sides of the car. And then have something kinda come to either a point here, and then the step roll just drop off the back here. And then what's nice about that is that if there's no water collecting up here, because this is the last part that you ever get to on the car, that in just like a real car, unless it's low or an actual like sedan, you're not going to get to the roof a lot. And when I pulled this one off, there was already like puddles just from low spots on the existing panel. So at least he can wipe the sides really good. I'm sure he'll take better care of it now that it has all this work on it, but just for the future and for style, I think we build almost like, just like the rest of the car, kind of has a shape that goes, a couple inches in here, a couple inches on this side, and then runs up, and then does some kind of, shape up here. Now, this is something I didn't do digital sketching on. I would like to do digital sketching on this, but since we're starting on this today and I want to keep moving forward, I got no problem just getting after this thing by hand, dude. We'll do something on the template paper, probably use the thick side of the marker just to be able to see it from afar. And then I'll take measurements once we find a winning design. I'll take measurements, transfer that onto our actual sheet, because this is the next thing we want to do. We want to get this thing done. I want to set it in there. I want to weld it. I want to blend it, be done, and then roll all these edges, finish this off, and start working on the windshield frame. So this thing's actually pretty close. The other good part about putting a step roll in there is gonna be the rigidity. It's gonna keep that seam, it's gonna wanna be straight with welding, forming, all that stuff. That's gonna wanna stay straight. And that sag we talked about in the middle, I do have that little spine in there. You can see that middle spine with the two Zeus buttons. I don't know exactly, if I'm solid on having that thing in there, like how to fasten it, or if I'm gonna have like a standoff, like a post with like some hardware or something. So the thing is, there's a middle tube, and I want to make sure that whatever fastening device we have for the middle of this thing is not offset by that middle tube. So like I have to make sure it's centered. Something to think about. But right now I'm gonna just, gosh, I guess I can take some rough sketching on here to get the bead roll layout going and see what it looks like, and then we'll transfer it. I think we'll get in there with a ballpoint. Why? Just because I can really scribble on this thing and still be able to go over it with like a blue Sharpie. Yeah, that's gonna do it. Yeah, I think simple shape, nothing can have consistent edges. I like what we got already. I might do a little kick on the end. Maybe. Kick on the end might not be necessary. I don't think I'm gonna have it come to a point either. Just have a big radius here. This is probably a 7. Whoa, what? Above average there, huh? And then, gosh, I think if we just shoot it straight off, it might be a little extra to put like a ping on the end of it and just keep it kind of consistent like this. Yeah, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this off and do maybe more of an accurate pull off this thing. Just want to make sure everything's lined up. The same principle like I've talked about. If you're gonna pull something off, just, you know, if you need to take, the goal with all this stuff is to, if you're working on something like this and you have to take it on and off, take it on and off as few times as possible. So get as much information per each hit, you know, to make this thing efficient. You're gonna shoot yourself in the foot and nobody's gonna pay for that time and you're gonna get sick of doing it. So just, you know, make it efficient. Wearing earbuds is always a thing for me. I don't like the focus on what I'm doing. You know, I already am thinking 4 different fucking things all the time and different trains of thought. It's a blessing and a curse, but with work, I like to have something going in my ears that is just encapsulating exactly what I'm doing. I don't want to hear other people making noise. I don't want to hear other music of someone else's choice. I don't want people to have to listen to what I'm listening to. I just like to have a dedicated system going where this helps me focus on what's going on. And we'll cover some of like the safety and the basics of like everyday safety gear or just necessities to kind of give insight into something else, or maybe open you up to trying something different. I'm gonna get this line information transfer to the other side, get our radius layout, make sure we have a consistent spacing up top, put this back on the car to verify before we make the thing out of aluminum. Going transferring. I have our layout somewhat dialed here. I can get this transferred onto our other piece and look at it a little more clear. I want to get a better idea of it on the actual aluminum. If you guys are wondering, this is 5052 063 aluminum that I'm using for everything on the Truggy. That's the go-to for most of the panel work you see. If I know that it needs to be like in a area, I mean, even, I don't think you're gonna get much here because there's not wide open, but if there's an area that is gonna be prone to like more abuse or get a little more stressed on what's hitting it, or, you know, rigidity, I will use like 90, like 090, or even 8th, but 8th is more for like under the car or some kind of panel work or something. So mostly all this stuff is going to be a 063 and 5052. All this curved area, I just do a dash. Once I get it off, then I'm gonna true it up again and tighten it with a straight edge, like my, you know, my rigged little radius situation I do. Just because the template's good, but it's not good enough to meet right up to aluminum, and that's something that's really important when you're putting panels together and welding them. And you know, you want to keep a profile like this. This profile, if there's any inconsistencies where like the top panel is like jagged or not perfect to this, when you weld it, it'll show. And then when you put heat in it, it's all gonna show. And it's just like if you're prepping a car or something, prep and getting everything to fit right from the start is gonna benefit in the end and make everything more streamlined with having like straight, flat, nice panel work. These are Harbor Freight, but ours do not do what the old Chicago electrics do. I know this is a hard thing to see because of the reflection of all the light, but this is our roof panel. I have the front cuts, like the layout of where I want the diameters here. What I do want to add, it has kind of a, like a taper or two lines going in here. I do want to make them tighten, and I know it's hard to see, but we'll really be able to see them when I lay the step into them. But I do want to do something where they kind of have a kink and go in more. Very similar. We have a lot of that detail already here. We're kind of kinks, it's got like parallels, and just I feel the design needs that, so I'm gonna send that right now. Tagging our one profile line and our other line that dives in there, and then making that smooth transition. I have all the patterns set for this top panel. I do want to put it on the car and just get it on the roof and verify everything is good. There might be something that comes up that I missed, and also that rear kind of tapered portion. I just want to make sure that's the right move, design-wise and style-wise. Also, the radiuses, even though they're 7-inch diameter, they still look small. So I just want to put it up on the car, verify really quick before I put a step roll into this thing and kind of send it off as a final. I talked to Rod over at Emery Motorsports. Rod's been like my guy for metal, just because that's like my one. Well, one of the uncomfortable things for me to learn and to get a grasp on. So what he's advising is to do a little bit of shrinking on this edge on both sides, then running it through the English wheel just to kind of clean it up and, you know, smooth it out. So I'm gonna get this thing off. I'm gonna get out the shrinker and just go through lightly. I think it's just, it doesn't really need it here. Look at that crooked finger, yikes. But we'll start somewhere maybe where the bead roll is and just run through. I call these murky waters when it's uncomfortable and I'm not sure I have it. So I'm gonna be very attentive to what I'm doing and try not to fuck up, you know? So Rod was right. We had 2 sessions of shrinking on this thing. On both sides are like this. It's just exactly what it needed. Stoked on it. So I'm gonna run this through the English wheel and just clean it, you know, get it a little more true to shape. There's just some stuff in there, not huge. I mean, you can see the light reflections aren't really disrupted. And then we're gonna pop the step and the bead roll in the middle and then get this thing tacked into the car and finish it out, and that's going to be one portion done. We do need to figure out the middle standoffs, but that's it. But it'd be really cool to get back and look at like what the car looks like compared to the sketch. Little dented guys in there. You got a lot of shape out of this thing. Got a pretty good crown on here. It's actually like a over arched, but it's gonna tack in perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and put bead roll into this thing. Call it a day. I'm setting the dies up right now. I'll do the pre-rip. You can see the shape too. You can see like the rise in this thing. Got some really good shape out of it. So now I'm gonna put that layout in here. One thing I want to do is I have like a spacer, like a depth adjustment on it. Well, I guess not depth, but like a space adjustment for the step. You can see. So I can adjust that close or tight pretty far with this. What I want to do is just make sure that I'm getting what I want. I think I'm going to do a greater spacing of step than what we have on the side panels, just to really give it dimension. So I'm going to do a test hit before I send the real deal. Bad though. Got some shit going here. Shit going on here I gotta fix. Other than that, this thing's bad. So right now I'm just doing a like a initial trim when you add all the shape into here, like I had to trim maybe a 1/4 inch here and kind of taper back into our original line. But you can see this thing's right where it needs to be. I do have these clamped on the end. I want to go verify the other side. If I can get this where I can get this side trimmed to fit, and then trim that side to fit as well, and not have to like tack here and then realize it doesn't fit on the other side and break this off and then redo it, that'll be the best. That's gonna be my goal here. I'm happy with where this thing is on both sides. I trimmed over on that side, on that driver rear corner, and I probably didn't need to. But everything is squared up where it needs to be. I have vice grips on here just to do a hard hold on the two fronts. I think what I'm gonna do is start on each corner with the tacking. I have a process to kind of chase everything, but these broke edges, they have double brakes in them and they're very rigid. So I'm gonna kind of bank on these. I know they're exact per side. And I'm literally just gonna start tacking this panel, just cinching it all the way across per side. Now the thing is, I am not gonna just do one side. I'm gonna have to maybe do a 4 or 5 inch spread here. First, I'll initially just tack, and then come back, probably do a 4 inch spread, come over there, do a 4 inch, and just chase it on both sides unless it starts to set down. But aluminum is very deceiving, and it can walk on you and start doing some really crazy shit, and this seam is extremely important to get right to this. So I don't want to have overlap or have to get in there with a cutter or prier. If you have to start prying stuff, then you already know that your fitment is off and something's changing and moving. Having some second thoughts here before I tack stuff. I can already see, like, just by having this vice grip on here, that there's like a lot of movement on the integrity of the front panel here. That's discerning to me because that is the profile. I think what we need to do, and it's not terrible, but I think I need to build a cap, like just a cover cap here. I'm gonna weld one side, two side, three side over there, and tack on so it holds the integrity of this thing. So I can still get my tacks here and on the driver's side. But I'm gonna put that cap in. I'll have to trim this little middle spine down, and that will allow this thing to take all the heat and stay true. And what it might also lend to doing is just I'll leave it and then I'll cut like a portion off, so it'll add a third dimension where it's not just an open sheet edge. You know, it's not just a reveal like that, but it's maybe do like, sorry you guys for the camera, I gotta flip it. Maybe do, I wanna say a half inch reveal all around. So I'm gonna get these tacked like I talked about, and probably even do a couple inches more. I know exactly that this is gonna be an 1/8 inch rise in the middle and then square, so I can build that piece, put it on, and continue on with what we're doing. But I do want to get these tacks done so I can take these off to really get an accurate template. I like roof scoop shapes, that's the bottom line. I just like there's something about that that's so cool. I don't know where in my life I got these crazy boners for roof scoops, but they're there. There's no denying that. I'm on the tail end attacking this thing. The fitment over there is scary close, like to being gapped. I could tell that this one, we're battling this thing out, so I want to attack this whole side. I can go over there and get that whole side, and then we can still build this front thing and tack it on, and it's going to hold it and have the integrity that it needs, because these planes are already tied down to these buttons, so this stuff's, it's not going to be shifting, but I am concerned about that angle and the top angle and then the matching angle for the driver's side. So I'm going to finish tacking this and then go over tack that side, and then I'm going to handle the old front there. Got all our main seams welded. I spy with my little eye, pretty gnarly little knot over there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a very dramatic. There we go, right there. So I'm gonna take this thing off and start working that thing out. Definitely notice some waviness just with how upset the shape is from side to side. There's just, you know, it's small material here and there's not really any metal shaping into it. So I might have to run through the roller through here, possibly the planishing hammer right to the outside. So I'm gonna kind of evaluate what we got here, take all the clamps off, but everything is welded. The side stayed relatively straight. It's just that fucker right there. We're gonna fix her. So I asked Sean for his opinion. He came over there and just popped out most of the dent right off the bat from the backside. So now I think we just need to run through this thing with like a planishing hammer, English wheel, and just smooth it, because I can see just from like the underside, the reflection, that there's several small just surface imperfections. I'd like to get it really, really smooth instead of just hide it with a DA sander. Got this thing upside down. I can already see where some of the English wheel marks are pretty defined here. It's gonna screw us, so I want to get that taken care of. The big hump area right in here. So I'm gonna just take a couple licks of this thing. Obviously it's got really good penetration on the backside, so we can get away with whatever we want to do here. The only part that doesn't have pin is this initial part that's low here. Where's that focus at, dude? There. But everything else is like pretty dialed. Lots of seagull poop in here, full pin. I'm gonna lick this thing and then figure out what kind of treatment we do next. So I ran this thing through the English wheel already. Got most of our stuff out of it. Whack the dent off a little bit. Whoa. Now what I'm doing is I'm just gonna get all the excess weld out from the bottom of this thing, and then I'm gonna do the top, really rough, but just enough where I can get the planishing hammer really close to here and get the English wheel close without catching on like the penetration from the outside weld here. Got one more little weld to finish too. And like seeing it bring it off. I thought it was where I didn't get penetration, but I actually just didn't have it welded, so I'm gonna get that out right now. I always try to get the welder out of harm's way when I'm doing a lot of aluminum sanding. I don't want the pedal to take all that dust inside. Here she is, sanded out. So this is not a final sanding finish. This is just enough to knock the welds down to get all the tooling and stuff out of the way. This is Dykem marking, you know, layout ink. The inside sanded too. So what this is gonna enable us to do is I can run this thing. There's, you know, it looks good to the first impression eye, but there is a lot of surface just deformations from welding. So I'm gonna get this thing as straight as I can before we start going any further on it. A lot better than it was. I think our planishing hammer is going to want to settle the score, if you will. There's some stuff going on here. And it's smooth, but it's still not like, not what I want. I hate this. We want to be able to powder coat this stuff black. That's what you always got to think about. Is like, just how's this going to look gloss black? It's a new experience, you know, like any kind of tooling like this is new to me, and it's a big learning curve. And it's just like asking yourself, like, what can you? How, you know, your brain starts to, once you start to learn like what this thing can do, then you start to think like differently about stuff you're building, because you have this new tool like in your toolbox. That's pretty much what we got here. All right, I'm gonna send this thing right up back onto the roof and then just get that front piece finalized, because that's kind of the last like tedious part where I can, as soon as I get that cap on there, I can weld that thing out, figure out any kind of, I don't want to say fuckery, I guess any kind of fuckery that's on there, smooth it out, and then finalize our shape. So kind of ready to move on. So I'm gonna get through this thing. Going trimming on this piece. So I broke some sheet metal angle. This is our top, like our front opening of the roof scoop. This guy's just going to cleat coat it here. It's going to give us that integrity, because if this, like the vertical face where the roof scoop opening is, if it is wavy at all, it's going to make the top surface do the same thing. So getting a little integrity in there is just kind of a extra backbone of security for the surface and keeping the edge the way we want it. See, look at those reflections. They always tell a story. Now, I have almost got this thing straightened out. I've been beating on it. I couldn't fit it in my planishing hammer, so I had a really significant dip here. I've got it pretty straight. And I feel some stuff that I want to adjust. I'm really happy with, this is actually a better side now than this side, so I'm gonna tinker with this. Just a ton. I probably hit this thing 2,000 times just with a dolly, sheet metal hammer and a dolly. So I just couldn't get it right. It had like a dip in it. It's just under pressure. It's right now though. It's feeling good. Got that front piece on. I started to finish that out, finish the edge here. So obviously you can see I kind of faced off the top, just so if it was on the table or a dolly was right there, it wouldn't have a upset from the weld. And then I'm gonna face off the diagonal or vertical side. But everything's feeling pretty good here. So I can feel a couple surface things. I wanna change that, and then we're good. So I have this thing off. Went through another session of Dicom. I had a pretty heavy surface deformation here that would come, especially when you put this thing on the car. There would be a really fat dent here. I hammered and dollied this thing last night for a long time. So I got it where I want it to be. I couldn't fit it in the planishing hammer. So, you know, I didn't know if I was gonna get defeated with this thing. Came out on top. It feels great. You know, that's always a learning lesson with aluminum for me, where this stuff really, if you just treat it right, it will work for you, and it will do what you want it to do. So I'm gonna show you all these hammer marks. You can see here, all that scuffing is hammer marks. And it's really worked out. I also welded the insides here. We got really good penetration on the long seam. I just got a little concerned on these edges just because I went light on them. So welded the backside. I usually weld everything on the backside, but we got really good pin on this. That's probably why it distorted so much. So, you know, got that going. What I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna trim our leading edge. So I think I'm probably gonna we'll do like let me get this thing, hold on. Take my glove off. Probably do 3/8, like a 3/8 reveal, or like a leading edge all through here, possibly even less. I don't want it to look like so much of a lip, but more or less just have a highlight, kind of can see here. You know, it's just got just enough of a highlight there. So that's what we're gonna go for. But the shape is really good. You can see I had that middle spine in here. What you got back here, cut that. What we have back here is Zeus pickups to hold this thing in. What I did notice, what I noticed here was when you put this thing on, trying to get the focus on, there we go. When you put this thing on, that middle part, it just, you know, it's a lot of shape. So it was just kind of dipping down in the back, and these standoffs are gonna be a lot better of a program than like a big spine going through there. Got my little indicator pins. Makes life pretty easy when you're locating Zeus button locations. The windshield's coming today. So I'm gonna kind of button up what I got for the roof and tighten everything up on it, solidify it so it's done, and prepare for the windshield. Roof scooping. So some inconsistencies, largely due to my cutting right now. So I don't think I had a good layout. I'm gonna just fix this stuff. Put this thing on the car. Actually, I'll probably get all our edges all taken care of and fluff and buff this whole entire thing. We're ready to go. The one thing I am concerned about, I want to see if there's going to need to be like like a structural standoff up front here to hold this just from going to Bowtown. So we'll see. Woo! Almost there. It's getting all the right reflections. The highlights here, I still feel fine to kind of help straight the edges. This one's better, myself. They're both good. But I can see little things. So I'm fluffing and buffing this thing, and then we're gonna do a roll on the edges. We still got to roll the edges, but she's polished. It's got a lot of work in it. There's, you know, instead of it just being like a panel, break, and then flat, we have like a rolled contour here that goes right up to the bead roll. This thing's all flattened back out, and then our edge is all cut too. Look at all that shit. That's the classic. It looks like there was snow falling here every time I start working aluminum like this. So this thing's looking pretty good. It's just one of the pieces to the puzzle of transforming this thing. So I'm gonna roll the edges next and get it on the car, and then just keep moving forward. I think we do need to, I'm a little nervous about this. I just feel like there's room for error. If this thing's going 100 miles an hour, going, you know, impact, going through whoops, I just feel like this is naturally just gonna want to bow down, even if it takes time. So I'd like to just have one standoff like I talked about, pop, right there, just to solidify things right off the middle tube. So I'm gonna look into that, see what that looks like, and roll the edges and get this thing on the car. Back to clean. Finished. Rolled edges. Density 1, signature 2-tone. Ready to put on the car. This stuff, I don't know exactly what that's going to do, that transition. It's sanded flat, but we'll see. Same with this guy. So I'm pretty excited to get this thing on the car. So obviously we got this tube coming out here. Need to trim, that's why it's rising up like that, but the fit's pretty good. And you just see that's the kind of the classic trim to get around the edges and make room for the bead roll. Little overhangs getting. Pretty happy with all this. The reflections are dialed. Yeah, it feels solid, but we need a standoff in there. I don't trust that. So this is our scoop. She's a large unit. It'll make sense once we get the all the, you know, the glass and stuff and the windshield in there. All right, so that's our roof scoop episode. Just a clean process on not only creating like actual functional roof scoop, but really just creating three-dimensional shape with sheet metal work. There's a lot of good fundamentals that you can take from that and apply to whatever surfacing you're creating or building. Next week we are going to cover the Truggy radius windshield, the French tin windshield, which is like a nice clean streamline. way to mount glass. Again, there's a lot there that you can take and just put into your own project. You know, really appreciate the support with this stuff. We do have more merch coming. It's just kind of a thing right now where it's not all the way streamlined, where it's just like always on deck. So we kind of do like the aprons, hats, shop shirts, all that stuff. We're gonna have like a signature line drawing kind of sketch line of shirts coming out too. So just we'll let you know when it drops, and we're working right now to just make this more of a just a consistent way of having merchandise available all the time. I can't thank you guys enough for your support. Enjoy this episode and also next week's episode, and like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.